And welcome back to this episode of Five Alarm Task Force. And this is a special insert we're putting in here, and I'm so happy to welcome my dear friend Tom Mitten. Tom, as you know, you may have heard his voice on a number of the voiceovers now on almost every podcast. But Tom has been a friend for a long time, and I just want to share a little background with you. He spent over 40 years in the fire service, many of those as the PIO, the Public Information Officer, working in media relations, community service, teaching in schools. He was the founder of the award-winning program Wake Up Delaware to promote the use of smoke detectors in the state, resulting in thousands of new smoke detectors being installed in homes that previously never had one. He owned his own audiovisual production house for over 20 years. He created a statewide promotion to generate more volunteer interest in the fire service. He moved into content creation, creating, directing, and producing various media. As of the last almost 10 years, he's been an instructor in creating media through writing, directing, and producing for 8 years at Wilmington University. And from 2003 to 2011, he was the co-owner and publisher of the Delaware Fire Service News. Then in 1999, 2000, fortuitously, with Dalmatian Productions, founded by our other good friend, Richard Bray, and me, through a notice in Fire Magazine, Tom reached out to us when we needed a videographer and producer. He helped create, write, produce, and direct the pilot for America's Heroes, the Men and Women of Fire Rescue, which is still available on YouTube. This show was a true reality show with interviews of those who worked the emergency scene in their own words. In 2015, he was part of the creative team in writing for our dramatic series, Cause and Origin. In April of this year, Tom thankfully joined me as a production consultant, tech advisor, and voiceover talent. And welcoming Tom is not just because of everything he's done for us, for me, and for the podcast, but now we're introducing a new segment that will appear on episodes of Five Alarm Task Force called F.R.E.T. F.R.E.T. No, we're not playing with the guitar. It's Fire Rescue EMS Today, which will be incorporated into our podcast. Tom will address key issues in the fire rescue EMS services today. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Well, Steve, thanks so much. I'm exhausted. That introduction was fairly heavy and very kind of you.
Well,
I must say that it's one of those things where I think everybody that I know that's in the fire service pretty much will tell you it's about a passion that you have. It's something that you feel, and whatever your role is, whatever functional role you play in fire rescue and EMS today or yesterday or tomorrow. A, there's always room for you, whoever you are, and B, you'd be surprised at some of the various things that that we need in the fire service that fall outside of the traditional expectations. So I'm happy to be able to make a contribution, have been able to do so, and it's nice to know that people appreciate everybody's contributions.
well, we do, and I think that's one of those unique aspects of the fire service that once you're in, yes, you may be treated like a rookie for months or a year or something like that, but everyone still appreciates that you made that decision to join up, whether it's career, volunteer, part paid, makes no difference. It's just that you're another body with interest that you want to help people, and you want to help those who are already helping people do better, do more. And I think that's the same thing with that, what you said about that passion.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think it's also the kind of thing that drew us together in the first place.
Right.
More than 20 years ago. We you had a very definitive idea that you were trying to get motivated and get it started, and you were looking for somebody that might be able to lend some technical and creative expertise. And it so happened that I was in a position where I was looking at the same kind of thing from the other side of the coin, if you will.
Right.
And that allowed us to find one another, and it was really great in that regard. We were able to share common interests, but also collaborate into making something that maybe none of us was completely sure what it was going to be, but we knew we had something that needed to be accomplished, and we knew that we were the ones that could do it. And there's a lot to that.
There was. I mean, you brought so much to it. I remember Rich and my first trip up to Delaware to meet you, and to see your facility and what you were doing, and you really did bring so much that we didn't have. We had the idea, we had the thought, we did the initial sketching and writing of what we wanted to do. And we all started, of course, initially for the volunteer fire service, which all of us were members of at that point. And we tried that, and we shot what, two pilots, I think.
We had different approaches,
Right.
different creative discussions.
Right. And then it was that distributor who we worked with who made the suggestion, well, why don't you just keep it the same, the men and women of fire rescue, but just make it everybody in fire rescue, not just volunteers. And you had some of the connections for footage, which was very important. And then you guided us how to put out the information that we want to request footage from around the country. And boy, did those applications and videos start coming in, and we were able to make some contacts, and you knew how to sew all the pieces together and made this great pilot that we still show on your website and on YouTube as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, depending on how things go over the course of this little get together, I have a little surprise for you at the end if you'd like. I have extracted an excerpt or two from the original pilot of America's Heroes, and if we have time, we'll fire it up and let everybody have a peek.
Oh, that is a great surprise. That's wonderful. I'll look forward to that in just a couple of minutes. So, excuse me.
But on to today's agenda.
So, you're going to be bringing us installments of F.R.E.T, Fire Rescue EMS Today. And tell me how that came about on your side, please.
Sure. Well, knowing that the podcast medium has continued to grow, and also really recognizing the success that you've had with 5-Alarm Task Force so far. I mean, you've just completed 4 seasons, correct?
No, I'm in 16.
Or we're into the 4th.
We're in the 5th season now.
We're in the 5th
right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, so you're moving right along in that regard, and it was like I knew where you were coming from and was very appreciative of the ideas, but I thought, well, maybe there's something that I could bring that was a little different, and I consulted with you first because I didn't want to feel like I was crowding your arena or anything of that nature, but thought that, well, maybe there are things that are not necessarily lighter side, but are not the emergency response parts of the fire rescue and EMS service. So I took a look at some of the various issues, and having a background in fire prevention and community education, but also having been, unfortunately, over the years, having been part of any kind of a formal funeral detail or other things of that nature, dress uniform kinds of activities.
Sure.
That maybe there was something there that there's a story, things about the communications aspects of it. I've fallen a little off the horse, if you will, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to get back on and affiliate F.R.E.T with 5-Alarm. But I'm looking at things like I want to do something. I'd like to get an interesting conversation started about the whole helmet cam idea. They're still even several years into the process of folks incorporating these. Some of them are incorporated in a independent, let's call it, category.
Right.
Others are sanctioned by their departments. Some are, I'm not sure. But what's the story, and who are the authorities? Who's providing the information? I know that the people that are making the cameras and selling the cameras, but what are the top 25 career departments in the United States do they have policies about the use of helmet cameras on the fire ground? You know, but I mean, because we've got ride-along shows about things that are going on in the fire service or the EMS service or the police departments as well. So somebody's letting some degree of that happen. Maybe there's more, but it was that kind of thing. One of the things I've been looking into, and you can expect to see it early on in an episode of F.R.E.T, is the movement as far as either retrofitting or new construction of residential homes with sprinkler systems.
Excellent.
And how effective that has been. And the fellow who I'm talking with is another Delawarean, a great guy named Paul Eichler, and he's been really stoic and at the same time very innovative in how he has gone about promoting and aligning himself with others of you know, similar feelings about not only the importance of it, but the actual value. And he's been receiving information from departments around the country about saves that are definitely credited to a retrofit of a sprinkler system in a house. So there are those kinds of things that, again, are not specific to the particular alarm or strategy and tactics or training or things like that. They all have their place and are handled, among others, quite well by you through 5 Alarm. So I thought, well, maybe this is the right kind of thing to add as an extra measure. So I thought, well, let me talk to my buddy here and see if he might agree that maybe there's something to this idea. And here we are.
Yeah, it is. And you and I both share that same passion because of our of some of the memories we have of the calls that we were on, of knowing that fast water isn't solely defined by getting that first hose line. Fast water can be the sprinkler in a home. And a good friend of the show who's been on a couple of times, Chief Dan Jones, from former chief in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in every home that he's moved into, he has retrofitted that home with sprinklers. And he said there was just no other way for us to live. That's part of our culture. We need to do it. And on social media, we have been a big proponents and followers of the sprinkler, forget the exact initials, the acronym for it, but pushing sprinklers in new construction especially, and looking at retrofitting. But we believe that we have to take a stand that every new residential structure, whether it's single family home or apartments, whatever, must be sprinklered from a point forth. That's it. It has to be that way.
Sure. And commercial properties, whether they're business related office buildings or back when I had Procom, the production company, which is more than 20 years ago, when we had that space retro or fitted out for our needs, that was one of the things that had to happen. It hadn't been the case because it was open warehouse, but the whole place had to be sprinklered. And of course you get a little worried when you got tens of thousands of dollars worth of high-end electronic gear in rooms that have sprinkler heads overhead. But it's one of those things where A, you hope they never have to be activated.
Right.
B, you also want, like you said, fast water, get the stop out, make it happen now. Exactly. But my point being that the commercial side of things has it figured out, and it's just it's second nature. Residences and the people in them deserve no less.
Exactly, 100%. You also brought up another topic that I'd like to see as part of F.R.E.T, is we have a lot of firefighters that receive the line of duty death notices through social media or Chief Billy Goldfeder's The Secret List. And but many of them aren't able to travel or know what to do when that tragedy occurs. And you mentioned that one of the things that you had done was working in the line LODD system when it occurred in Delaware, helping that department and those members deal setting up what needed to be done to honor their fallen comrade. And I think that would be an interesting topic, if you're able to do it, to address with our listeners as well, and viewers as well, because many don't really understand it. They know that they've lost a comrade from that notice, but they don't understand what happens from that point forward in that department, whether it's career, volunteer. Again, it doesn't make any difference. We all mourn when we lose a comrade, a colleague, but they don't necessarily know, if they've never had it, what the process is. And dress uniforms, what are those, and things like that. And that might be a great topic to include in one of the episodes.
It could be, although it probably ends up being a couple of different things, because right away from what you're saying, what I did was I had a chief who he's the go-to guy in Delaware and the surrounding area when it
Right.
comes to putting a funeral of this type or this kind of a service together from the departmental aspect,
Right.
not from the religious aspect or
Right.
anything like that, but from departmental things, organization and everything like that. But also then to get where you're going about anything beyond that, what does the department do after the fact? I mean, is it customary or expected that their department or their if it's a volunteer company, if they do something, dedicate a monument on the property or name a training room after somebody or what it happens to be, to honor them in that regard. You've also got, the residual fact that people have to deal with the loss of someone, just the loss. And that may best be handled by the folks who are the critical incident stress people.
Absolutely.
So you've got several different things going on, but it's a good idea, and perhaps we can get several people that could speak to each of those things, either as a group or in a series of little put together kind of things.
Right.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Sure.
Well, I think F.R.E.T is going to offer our viewers and listeners another side of the culture. And that's what we just talked about with Dr. Clark. And I think if we put F.R.E.T all together, fire and rescue and EMS, there is a special culture that we have. They're individualized and compartmentalized in some way, but there's still a culture that we share. And I think F.R.E.T is going to bring some more information that I have available in time and guests to bring to the show that would stay in, that you're going to be able to contribute to the programming on 5-Alarm Task Force.
Well, that's certainly, I think, our mutual hope. But it's also a great honor to be able to affiliate with what you kind of back away from. But I'm here to tell everybody this is a very successful thing that you have been doing now in your 5th season. We were just talking the other day about incorporating F.R.E.T into 5-Alarm. I mean, I've never been, not that I'm aware of anyway, I've never had anything heard around the world. And you certainly have and do on a very regular basis. And I don't know how many languages are involved, but thank you in every one of them.
Well, so right now, as of from January 1st of this year, we're in over 43 countries. Have listened to 43 countries across 6 continents. So it is. I have been kind of trying to be persistent with the firefighters at the McMurdo base in Antarctica, even if they listen to one. That way I can say I have all 7 continents covered by the podcast. But I haven't heard any replies from them yet. But
that could be a little tough.
Yeah, but they do have it's a group of volunteers dedicated who are trained for fire protection down there. It's a little bit more difficult, a few more challenges they have to meet. But I'm sure that every nation that has a base down in Antarctica does the same thing. They still, once you're inside, and you still have to have fire protection of some sort. So, but I think again that would be a great podcast to share with our listeners if I can succeed in connecting with them and bring it on. But I like the idea when you approached me about it, about bringing F.R.E.T in as a segment into 5-Alarm Task Force, because it offers an extra piece of information that we can share with the listeners and the viewers. And since we'll be doing it probably all on Zoom anyway, so they'll be able to watch it or listen to it based on their choice and availability. And it's going to give them, even though we're in the fifth season, there are areas that you're familiar with and people that you know that I don't have that knowledge or that experience. Because again, I was knocked out after 8 years due to an injury. Even though I kept connected to the fire service and kept following it and read the trades and stuff, there was a lot that's happened that I've learned over the last 4 years of doing the 4.5 years of doing the podcast that has occurred that I just can't touch on, or I don't know anybody who can do that. But yet with your expansive experience, you might have those contacts and the knowledge to bring that through in an episode of F.R.E.T.
Well, again, I think, that's certainly my hope that, I can interest the people that have the story to tell to spend a little time with me and with the audience and let us know, keep us posted and keep it fresh, because that's today is part of the name of the piece, and that's the idea, is that plenty of folks are handling the nostalgia stuff, and plenty of people are doing history related things. But let's keep as close to the front of the line as we can get in terms of what's happening, and share that with our audience, and hopefully do a little good in that regard.
I think we will. I really don't have any doubt about it, because as I said, it's a different angle for us. It's a new angle, will be a new angle for our listeners, and it fulfills my goal of bringing information, not entertainment. I want to bring information to our listeners and viewers that's important to them and that they can take and do something with it. And I think F.R.E.T is going to be able to add an extra piece of that right into the podcast, because it's just impossible for me to do so many podcasts on my own and get that many guests all rolled up. And having you, with your experience and your background, coming in with F.R.E.T, it's going to allow the show to deliver that product to the listeners through the vehicle of 5-Alarm, but it's not on my head that it's going to, I have to find those people and interview.
No, absolutely. That's the whole idea.
Right.
You come up with something and you delegate, and it's just like running a scene.
Well,
You get somebody else to handle the different aspects of it, and they're accountable to you. But by the same token, you give them their assignment and tell them get it done.
well, that's your experience as the director, which you
It's also part of being in the fire service.
right. Well, true. But as a director, you actually going back to how we created the pilots, you really did have the technique down. You told Rich and I what needed to be done. You worked with a guest so very well when we had the host. Then when we moved to the narrator version of America's Heroes with, I forget his name again, but Curtis with Curtis. Again, another wonderful voiceover artist as well. And you just put every square block in the square peg. Whereas Rich and I were taking round ones, triangles, and trying to bang them in there, and they just wouldn't fit. You guided us. And I think that's what you're going to bring with F.R.E.T, because you're going to bring that wisdom and that experience to each installment. And I think that's going to improve the show. It's going to bring a better level to our podcast.
Well, that again is certainly my hope and my intention. And I think I can handle the assignment, Chief. Just have to get everything squared away. From show to show, or feature to feature, whatever it happens to be. I mean, we can talk a little about the specs. I don't expect it to be lengthy, but I'm not sure yet where we're going to go, for each one. I think I'm going to try to keep it under 30 minutes,
Right.
so that there's enough there to get information of some value, hopefully.
Mhm.
But it also, isn't going to take up, your entire time period.
Right. Right.
It's something you can get and spend the time with, and then move on to the next thing.
Right. Well, I think, like I said, this is going to be a terrific addition for us. And I think that, first, I'm going to clarify that I'm not a chief. I've always considered myself a snot-nosed belly crawling nozzle jockey. That's about as far as I got before I got hurt. But I think that we worked together. We worked very well together over those 20 plus years. You brought great stability to the whole concept of America's Heroes, and not just as a professional director, but as a friend directing Richard and I to the tasks that were going to improve the whole production of the show. And you really were the captain of the ship for us. And I think that is what was so important in producing that pilot, and giving it the dramatic quality and yet the informative quality in the same way, because the concept of having the people who are on the call talk about it afterwards. Yes, we see, live fire and live PD on television today, but they barely have time to talk to anybody. It's just quick video, and then they move on to the next call.
Sure.
Our goal was to actually talk with some of the people who were involved in that call and let them explain what they saw, what they went through, what they had to do. And I think that brought much more depth than any other of a similar type reality show that was on at that time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but that was our goal. We said all along, this was about us, from us.
Right.
We were all part of the same allegiance, and that we wanted to represent the fire rescue EMS services as best we possibly could, from the perspective of, we understand, we've been there too.
Right.
And that mattered a lot. The fact that I was able to bring the other side of my life, my media content creation, and actually probably, I mean, as much as I directed the episode and things of that nature, and my students will tell you this too, the job that I did most on that project, and I do most on any project, is serve as the producer. It's also one of the jobs, and until you take my course, you don't necessarily know, well, what the heck is the producer? It's a very hard job to define, because it basically is the everything. It's the person that captains the ship,
Right.
whether it's in dry dock or out in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere. But it's the person who makes sure the trains are running on time, or all the other, little niceties that explain, what or who a boss is, that kind of thing. But knowing the whole time that your product is directly related to people. I mean, there are people involved in providing the product by being the people that were there and telling the story. There are people who are collecting the product by being the camera operators and the audio technicians and the grips and all that, and the director and producer and everybody, the makeup artist, everybody.
Sure.
And then there's the audience, and you got to create a line that carries all of them jointly to the destination, which is a successful project.
Right. Well, I think that's one of your great fortes, great strengths.
Well, I do the best I can with what I got.
Oh, I'm not sure if how that reflects on Rich and me, but that's okay. We'll accept it, and it was terrific. I mean, we all got. I think what was great is that as coming from being complete strangers with no connection other than the fire service, we became great and fast friends that has kept going. And then when our friend Jesse came on board from LA, he joined the party and we just all remained great friends over these years. So even though the show didn't go where we wanted it to, it brought us together to work together, becoming friends, led us to writing the script for Cause and Origin together and pitching that. You and I were in the city of brotherly love to co-pitch that, and were, I think, both pretty astounded by the warm reception we received for it from the get-go. And even though we've recently dissolved the whole Dalmatian Productions division of our lives, that's little piece is still hanging around, and still, I'm still working on it in the background just a little bit, maybe a couple times a week to see if there's still an opening for a show like that somewhere on the vast universe of broadcast, satellite, cable, network, streaming.
It's easier to just call it content delivery.
You're right. That is it. Content delivery.
And it's content creation. I tell everybody, if you want to know what I do, I'm a media content creator. That's the easiest way to go about it because that covers all sins.
Right. That's good. Well, that's good. And I think it's going to be great. Is there any more you have, about it? Any other ideas that you're thinking of?
Well, I mean, it's the kind of thing where we're going to have to see, you've got an established audience and they keep coming back for more. And my hope is, and I know yours is too, but my hope for you and for us is that adding Fire Rescue and EMS Today to the 5-Alarm Task Force podcast will enhance the program, add another perspective, as you were saying earlier, and I have to make sure that I deliver that. That's my commitment, and I hope also that the audience for that will respond. And we'll have a dedicated email address where they can send us a note or something like that. I'm not nearly the social media guru that you are in terms of staying on top of all these things. I have a feeling I'm going to get an education fairly quickly. I have too many email accounts, but from an electronic standpoint, that's the medium I go to most, followed by text messaging just to confirm and deny. But my point is, I'd like the audience to feel that we want to hear what they have to say, and hopefully it'll be something that they like.
Well, I agree, and we always solicit. In fact, in the outro of every show, we solicit people if they have an idea for a show, if they want to be a guest, what they know of a guest. Now, it really hasn't happened via email, but I have had people through social media send a tweet or a message on Instagram or on Facebook saying, hey, would you look at this person, or could you cover this topic in a show? And I've tried to do that for them as well. And I like that because number one, it tells me that we're delivering a product that this person finds interesting, and there's a topic they would like us to hit on, or a guest they'd like us to invite to the show for the information that person already knows what that person can bring to the show. So I love that whole concept of the suggestions that I get from social media. And I've tried to do my best to follow up and bring some of those guests on, and I have. It's sometimes a little bit awkward because oftentimes their suggestions, they don't know me from a hole in the wall, so I have to send them a direct message or dig out their email some way or another social media platform so I can reach them and say, hi, this is who I am. I'd like to invite you for more information. Just send me an email, and I send. And that's the way it starts. And I've probably gotten a couple of dozen of my guests just through that manner. So I hope that as you just said, will make an impact on the viewers and listeners, that they'll say, oh, we'd love to hear about this. Can you guys cover this? Yeah, we'll make our best effort to do so, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to listen to ourselves. We're here to record these so that we have our viewers and listeners, and we hope that we educate and elucidate the stories and the information that comes from fire, rescue, and EMS today.
Well, okay. Sounds fair.
Sounds good.
Going back to what I had mentioned early on, do we want to close out with our little excerpt,
That'd
or
be great. Let's do a little excerpt
we've
from.
got about 9 minutes here. It's 2 stories.
Okay.
Now, remind me, if people want to go see the show, is there a link to the America's Heroes YouTube on the 5-Alarm website, or somewhere on 5-Alarm something? Or
Yeah, all they have to do is go to, well, our videos now are on 5-Alarm Task Force Corp. That's the name of our channel.
right.
And I think the old Dalmat Prod channel is still there. And that's, I believe, where I do have the link for 5-Alarm for America's Heroes in my signature of my email, so I know it's there. I just don't remember. I think it's I think it's a bit.ly. I think it's capital, bit.ly/, America's Heroes. I think that's exactly what it is.
You actually titled a bit.ly for it. Okay,
Yeah.
because it just kind of lives in my YouTube,
Right.
my YouTube library.
Right.
I don't really call it a channel, but I guess that's kind of what the term is. It's more, to me, it's more a library, because
Right.
they're all
Yeah,
accumulated.
YouTube just uses the channel name for
Yeah,
creators,
yeah.
that's all. So yeah,
But anyway,
let's
so
share
they
it.
can find it if they want, and so let's see now. I'm hopefully I'm not striking out here.
I got to make sure you're still sharing
you-
screen. Hold on, we got to do that.
What are we doing?
I'm going to make you. Oh, you're still a co-host.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that ends until this ends.
Okay. Right.
So I need to just share the screen and do this, and are we going to come back to say goodbye, or
Yeah, we'll come back and say goodbye. Yeah, we'll come back and say
Well,
goodbye.
let's see if we can make this happen here, boss. Sure. I need to go to, well, let's see, share. Where's it? Oh, it just, I click on, and this should do it. Let's see.
You not okay? Well, here we go.
Can you see the blue screen?
I see the blue screen. Yes, we do.
Let's see what happens now.
Okay.
And we'll be quiet. Come on. Uh-oh. Not quite. There we go. Whoops. All right. Told you I'm having my
That's okay.
issues here. What do I need to do?
All I'm gonna do is.
I'm trying to figure out how to get it. Oh, new share I don't want. What I want is, how do I get, all right, I'm lost. Can you help me out?
Yeah, so have it ready on your screen to show. Okay,
All right.
just have that screen up and ready.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I see that fine, because I saw your desktop.
Got it?
Yep, here we go.
Here we go.
Rescue calls that involve children make the hearts of those who respond beat a little faster as they think for just a moment of their own youngsters. Such is the case as firefighters are dispatched to a report of a small boy entrapped in a sewer pipe. When rescuers arrive, they find the boy swallowed up by a section of concrete pipe protruding vertically from the ground. Initial attempts to pull the boy straight up prove unsuccessful as he is tightly wedged inside the cylinder. A young emergency medical technician holds the boy's outstretched hand in an attempt to assess his injuries and provide him comfort, while other members of the rescue team wonder aloud just how they need to proceed.
We discussed it for a few minutes and decided that the best way would be remove some of the debris around the pipe and poke a hole in the bottom to take a look and see how bad he was stuck, and maybe also get a chance to assess his injuries.
Since the young boy is conscious, alert, and not complaining of any pain, rescuers talk with him and try to determine just how he had become wedged inside the concrete cylinder. However, they know that extricating him quickly is critically important.
At first, we thought it was real simple and we'd be able just to grab hold of him and lift him out. With the way his leg was twisted up alongside of him, we were actually pinching him into the pipe a little bit more by trying to lift him out. So we attempted that at first, but then decided that we would have to go another way. With injuries that were possible with him falling in that pipe, we knew that it was an emergency and had to get him out quickly.
The firefighters recognize that in order to free the boy, they need to get inside the pipe from below him. After securing the pipe with ropes to keep it from moving, they measure both inside and outside along the cylinder wall. Then, using a sledgehammer, the crew breaks through the concrete at a point safely below where the youngster is stuck. This gives them the vantage point they need to move ahead with their plan to carefully straighten the boy's tangled right leg and then lift him out of his tight quarters.
Bottom of the sneaker, which is right where you were banging. Right here, Kenny. Right here where his shoulder is.
Meanwhile, the young EMT and the boy continue to bond, which is also an important element of the rescuer's strategy. By diverting the boy's attention from his predicament and giving him assurance that everything would be all right, the extrication crew can move ahead quickly.
We were explaining to him what was going on, what we were going to do, how we were going to get him out. Told him who was here, his mom. There's a lot of people watching him. Then I just engaged in general conversation, how old he was, where he went to school, what he was doing, how he got stuck in the pipe.
Members of the rescue crew continually monitor the inside of the pipe with flashlights to ensure that the actions taking place below the trapped boy do not jeopardize him in any way. Once they have broken through the concrete and gained clear access to the boy's twisted leg, the rescuers carefully remove his shoes, untangle his leg, and gently lift him out of the sewer pipe.
There he is. You got it. Woo!
Once freed from the cylinder, the boy's injuries can be more thoroughly assessed. Amazingly, other than his twisted ankle, the youngster has suffered no broken bones or trauma, only minor scrapes and bruises. While certainly more than he bargained for, the boy's adventurous walk around the rim of the pipe has ended happily. Firefighters are in the business of saving lives and property, and every call they answer poses unique challenges regarding that mission. Today, there are a growing number of specialized firefighting teams whose job it is to be prepared to rescue the rescuers. Upon arrival, the fire chief finds a heavy fire condition in this two-story home. Recognizing the workload ahead, he quickly calls for the local Firefighter Assistance Search, or FAST team, to respond. The specialized group of firefighters who make up the FAST team are responsible for monitoring the progress of those battling the flames or searching for victims. Should any of the frontline personnel find themselves in trouble, the FAST team immediately springs into action to assist their fellow rescuers to safety. This particular fire continues to spread rapidly, making its way up from the basement through the first and second floors of the home. While teams of firefighters are inside, battling the flames and searching for occupants, others are cutting holes in the roof to allow the smoke and gases to escape. creating a clearer path for those inside.
Fire on the second floor was getting more and more intense. We noticed this. We saw thick brown smoke starting to pour out of the structure, which was a little odd considering there was at least 2 or 3 hand lines in the structure itself. Upon noticing this, I instructed all of my team to get their masks on and get ready to go in service.
As the fire spreads, crews report that no victims have been found inside the home. The fire chief orders everyone to exit the building. However, before the crew on the roof could complete their assignment, the fast-moving fire engulfs the second story of the home and begins shooting out of every window, as well as through the holes they had cut in the roof. The firefighters are trapped on the roof of the now fully involved structure.
We got somebody on the roof! We immediately went and assisted with moving ladders to get firefighters that were still stuck on the roof of the structure that were venting at the time. I assisted with firefighter Winterberg in moving some of the ladders to get some of those firefighters off the roof as quickly as possible.
The fire causes considerable damage to the home and its contents. But due to the quick thinking of the fire chief and the efforts of the FAST team, the firefighters who had become trapped on the roof as the flames approached them were rescued and suffered no injuries.
Being a firefighter, you want to get in there, you want to get inside, you want to put out the fire, you want to help out. But being on the FAST team, you have to kind of sit outside and watch the fire develop. We stood there, we watched the fire for nearly half an hour, and after that, the second floor took off, and we were just as important as anybody else, if not more important, because we were fresh, we were ready to go, we were ready to help those people who've been working so hard for the past half an hour.
And if you're still there, there you go.
Still here.
It's still my contention has always been it still holds up pretty well.
You know what it does? It's nostalgic. It takes those 2 stories, brought me up back to the time we were sitting, going through tapes and reviewing and choosing, and then reaching out to the departments. You know, luckily, Ellesmere Wilmington you were connected with already. Willow Grove, I had established a semi-connection because I kept visiting them whenever I was in the community.
And Spring, Texas just showed up.
And Spring, Texas just showed up. We were very lucky with that one.
Let's also, in case folks might not be familiar, since it was more than 20 years ago, when John Diana was talking about the FAST team,
Right.
This was in the very early days of this kind of activity. It's now obviously RIT.
RIT or RIC. I hear a new RIC team. RIT as well.
RIT, of course. But,
Yeah, RIT. Yeah.
Intervention team. But but anyway, just in case people were, what's the FAST? I mean, it's obvious what it is, but that terminology they were competing at the times, and RIT kind of won out.
Yeah, there were lots of acronyms being used there.
But
was the mission was the same no matter what its name was.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But let's hope maybe our listeners will and we apologize for the listeners that couldn't see the story, but you got to enjoy Curtis's wonderful narration and interviews with folks that made it happen. So we hope that was something for you.
And I think with that, if the viewers and listeners like that preview, and then they go to YouTube and watch the whole show, it would be really nice if they said, how come you guys can't do that today? And that's a question that you and I have thought about, and Rich has as well.
Lost a lot of hair about.
Yeah, we
But
have.
but I think the thing is too. I mean, we took a very different approach. Not only was it the approach that we're part of the business, so we'll represent as well as tell the story. We'll represent the brothers and sisters that we have in this industry, in this business, in this family. But also the packaging for this was an hour-long pilot, so it was 48 minutes. And the stories averaged 4 minutes, and there were all different departments. So we did a broader brush look in bite-sized pieces of interesting stories. At least we thought they were interesting.
Right. And we let those involved speak in their own words
Oh,
as
yeah.
to what they did.
Oh, they're the story. Without
Right.
them, we have nothing.
Exactly. Well, I think this has been a great piece for us to do. I'm thrilled to have you on board. I can't wait for you to let me know that we got the first episode of F.R.E.T coming down the pipe.
I will do my best to hold up my end of the bargain, Chief, and Sir, or Steve, buddy.
Let's keep it simple. Yeah. Keep it simple.
We'll depend on the folks that are watching and listening to let us know, especially the listeners, because part of the big deal is we have to make the story interesting to the ear.
Exactly.
Because that's the majority of deliveries is as audio. So we want it to be interesting to everybody, but we certainly realize that the audio medium requires that your words become pictures.
Very true. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this little peek at F.R.E.T, Fire Rescue EMS Today. I'll keep you posted on when we're going to have the first episode come in. And I want to thank my good friend, Tom Mitten, again, for over 20 years, not only a great media content creator, producer, director, but a great friend and supporter for all these years. So, Tom, we look forward to it. Great to have you on board. And
My pleasure and privilege.
And can't wait to get our first piece.
You betcha.
All right, you stay safe and stay well.
And you do the same, Steve.
Thanks. Folks, we'll be right back right after these words. Please stay tuned.